Hey guys! This is part 3 of What If Naruto Did Not Take the Chunin Exam. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start! Interlude 1. Unknown forces begin to move. In a massive library stood Kyoleth. In front of him was a podium with a book and a pen writing in it. So it is beginning. The cycle that has been going on for centuries is beginning once again. Who will come out on top, order or chaos? But will he be able to beat the forces of chaos? That world is a nexus, so it limits what I can do. But I will do what I can. Kyoleth walked away and vanished. When he reappeared, he was on the other side of the library in front of an ornate door. As he grasped the door, he said, "Vladimir's domain." When the door opened, it revealed a beautiful 3-story house with lots of land surrounding it. The house was surrounded by a field of flowers with woods beyond that. Vladimir walked through the door, revealing that the door was opening in the air. He slowly walked along the path towards the house. As he arrived, the door opened to reveal a beautiful young woman with long blonde hair done up in a ponytail that reached down to her legs with bangs framing her face. Her eyes were like gold coins that gleamed in the light. She was wearing a revealing yellow kimono, a golden obi, and a black pelt, with gold skulls and lines printed on it. The kimono was open at the shoulders to reveal her large breasts. Behind her waved 9 golden foxtails, and on her head is a pair of fluffy golden fox ears. Kyoleth, did you need my husband for something? Or have you just come to visit? Kyoleth smiled as he said, "I need to speak to Vladimir about a job. Mind leading me to him, Yasaka?" Yasaka gave Kyoleth a gentle smile as she said, "Of course, Kyoleth." Yasaka led Kyoleth to Vladimir's workshop. When they arrived, she knocked on the door and waited for Vladimir to call them in. When the door opened, it revealed a young-looking man with a lean build, skin as pale as snow, and long black hair that was done up in a 3-strand braid that fell down his back. He was wearing a black long-sleeved shirt with a matching vest over it, black pants, and black combat boots. In his hands was a small knife that he was carving wood with. He looked up to reveal an effeminate face with the eyes hidden behind black sunglasses. The man smiled at Kyoleth as he said with a whispery voice, "Well, hello there, Kyoleth. To what do I owe the pleasure?" "I have a job for you, Vladimir." An unknown location, Hagoromo floated in his domain, watching over the elemental nations. He was troubled, the reason for his trouble. Indra's latest incarnation was becoming darker and more corrupt than ever. He knew he couldn't support his eldest son, but he couldn't bring himself to abandon him either. But something was different about his chakra. It was almost as if it wasn't all there. It was at that moment he sensed it. A spark of what felt like his son's chakra. It felt like his son's chakra from before he became corrupted, and it wasn't coming from Sasuke. Hagoromo quickly located the chakra signature and found the one who was giving it off. It was Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke's older brother. How is Indra's chakra in both of them? Not to mention, why is Itachi's uncorrupted? Hagoromo focused on Itachi. He would need to watch this young man. He was the key to everything, Hagoromo could tell that much. Konoha Shinobi Academy, Naruto grinned as he helped Iruka keep the class in check. It had been a month since he had become a Chunin, and a week since his celebration pranking spree. There were still places that were decorated in unique ways, namely the civilian library, the Hokage Tower, and some of the academy rooms. It was funny that no one realized that Naruto had helped with the pranking spree. Half of them had been done by the Konohamaru Corp. And Hanabi. Ibiki was twitching and muttering by the end of his interrogation. Naruto took pride in his ability to keep secrets. A couple days ago there had been an incident where Jiraiya had been chased around the village by Tsunade. It soon came out that apparently Tsunade was now pregnant, even though she was over 50 years old. So the village had something to celebrate about. Currently, Naruto was leaning against the wall, his face shadowed by his hat. As he leaned there, Iruka was giving a lecture on summons. There are 4 types of summons. First are the low-level summons. Now these are summon clans without the ability to aid in combat, instead they have various other ways of being useful. Next are the medium-level summons. These have some combat potential, but they are mainly used for other purposes. The second to last are the high-level summons. Many of these are family-related and have high-level combat potential. The final are the legendary summons. These clans have summons powerful enough to hold their own against the Bijou. Now who can name some summon clans? Konohamaru raised his hand. My clan has a contract with the monkey summons. Good Konohamaru, the monkey contract is a high-level contract. The monkey clan also has the unique ability to transform into a weapon for their partner to use. Can anyone else name another? A young boy in the back who had black hair raised his hand. Doesn't the Hokage have the toad contract? Irika smiled as he said. Yes, he does indeed, Ryoga. The toads are one of the legendary contracts. The boss Gamabunta actually held down the Kyuubi during its attack 14 years ago. Can anyone else name a summon clan? Udon raised his hand. Doesn't the boss have a dragon contract? He summoned one during the invasion. Irika nodded. Yes, he does, Udon. I'm surprised no one brought this up earlier. I'll let Naruto take over talking about his contract. Naruto stepped forward, pushing his hat up so the class could see his eyes. So as Udon brought up, I have signed the contract with the Dragon Clan. This clan is one of the legendary Class 1s, and a very high-ranking member of that class. The Dragon Clan has been partnered with the Uzumaki clan since it was founded. In fact, the army that attacked Uzushio was completely destroyed by the boss of the Dragon Clan, Slifer. Sadly, Slifer was summoned to save the Uzushio army. Instead, he was summoned to avenge my clan. An army of over 10,000 ceased to exist in seconds. Naruto looked at the class who were staring at him with shock. Naruto smiled as he said, According to Slifer, he isn't the only summon with that level of power. According to him, there are 4 in all. He never told me their names, but he did tell me their titles. Slifer is the ruler of the heavens. The next is the king of the golden earth. The third is lord of the northern wilds. The final one is known as the monarch of everlasting night. It was Irika who asked the question. Do you know which clan they are aligned with? Naruto shook his head. Slifer said that the 4 of them had an agreement. They would never reveal more than their titles to anyone who doesn't already know about them. He did mention, though, that only his and the monarch of everlasting night's clan contracts had been signed. Naruto turned to the class. So, who wants to meet a summon? The class erupted into cheers. Irika, I'm taking the class outside to introduce them to a summon. Before Irika could answer, Naruto and his clones had already led the class out of the room. It took him a moment to realize what happened before he followed them out. When they were out in the yard, Naruto turned to face the class. Now, since Irika had told me about this class a week in advance, I decided that I would get permission from a certain dragon for me to summon him. Now watch closely. First you bite your thumb to get some blood, then you use these hand signs for the summoning jutsu. Naruto bit his thumb and began to go through the hand signs before slamming his hand down on the ground. Summoning jutsu. The kanji appeared on the ground, and with a plume of smoke the dragon arrived. When the plume cleared, it revealed the dragon that was on all 4s. The dragon had tan scales with a pair of horns on its head. On its chin was what looked like a white beard. The dragon was about the size of a horse. The dragon's eyes were blue and seemed to twinkle. The dragon released smoke from its nostrils before it said, Ah, Naruto, my boy. I was wondering when you would summon me. So these are the hatchlings you wanted to introduce me to. Ya Wulfric, this is the class I teach alongside Irika. Everyone, this is Wulfric, the smoke dragon. A boy raised his hand. Why is he called the smoke dragon? The dragon's eyes seemed to twinkle more before his body turned into a smoky version of his body. The dragon's deep voice echoed from the smoke cloud. Oh, I don't know. Why would I be called the smoke dragon? The dragon's form changed back into a solid form. The student blushed as he said, Sorry about that, Wulfric-san. The dragon shook his head. No need to apologize. Curiosity is not a bad thing, and neither is the desire to learn. Are there any more questions? Moegi raised her hand. How old are you, Wulfric-san? The dragon rested his head on his claws as he said, Well, I am the second eldest of the dragon clan. I have lived for close to 8,000 years. The only one who is older than I is Slifer. But since Slifer is immortal, he will watch over the dragon clan till the end of time, while I will eventually move on to the next great adventure. Konohamaru raised his hand. Who was your favorite summoner of the dragon clan? Wulfric tapped his claw on the ground before he said, That is a difficult one. I will go with Mito Uzumaki. She was a wise woman, and she would summon me just to chat at times. We would have the most intriguing conversations. I was sad to learn that she had passed on. I am certain she is enjoying her afterlife with her husband. It was Udon that asked a question this time. Did she ever summon you for a battle? Yes, indeed she did. During the battle against Madara Uchiha. I was summoned for her battle against the Kyubi. Hanabi couldn't help but ask the question they were all thinking. But you're not very big. Wulfric seemed to smile at the young Hyuga. That is true, but you see I can change my size unlike many of the other dragons. I became bigger to fight Kyubi. My smoke form made it difficult for Kyubi to fight me. In Naruto's mind, Kurama snorted. Wulfric was downplaying the battle. His smoke form was an annoyance to try and fight. He would phase through all his attacks and launch counter-attacks right after. Wulfric yawned. I think my time is up, my boy. I'm not as spry as I used to be. Naruto chuckled as he said, Have a nice day, Wulfric. With a nod, Wulfric disappeared in a plume of smoke. Naruto turned to the class as he said, Wulfric is a nice dragon, but he gets tired easily. Iruka spoke up. Well, now that part of the lesson is over. It's time for the daily sparring, and look, we just happened to be in the yard. The class cheered. They all preferred the physical training over Iruka's boring lectures. It's why Naruto was so liked as a teacher, because when he gave lectures he made sure they weren't boring. That night, Naruto was laying in bed asleep. Behind him, using him as a human plushie, was Hinata, who had moved in with him right after she became a Chunin. Meanwhile, in his dreams, Naruto was sitting in his mindscape talking with Kurama. So Wulfric actually did really well against you. That damn dragon was without a doubt one of the most annoying enemies I have ever faced. Shikaku probably would have had an easier time against that damn lizard. Unnoticed by the two, a small line with a hook was slowly being lowered behind Naruto. When it was behind Naruto, it moved forward and caught on the back of his pajamas. Naruto continued talking to Kurama, unaware of what was going on. So you admit that there are things Shikaku is better than you at? Before Kurama could answer, the hook had gotten a good grip on Naruto's clothes. At that moment the line yanked and Naruto was pulled up screaming the whole way. Kurama just watched the mental representation of his host get pulled through the ceiling. It was at that point that Yami, who had been sitting next to the cell, said, Do you think he's going to be okay? The ancient fox looked at the ceiling before resting his head on his hands. He'll be fine. I'm going to sleep. Okay, see you later, Fuzzy. I'm not Fuzzy! Unknown location, Kyoleth was reclining in a fisherman's chair in the library. In front of him was a hole in the floor. On his head was a fishing hat with various lures, while in his hands was a fishing pole. He was currently reeling it in. I caught a big one. A few seconds later he had finished reeling in his catch, which was revealed to be Naruto, who was looking extremely windswept. His pajamas were covered in various debris and had cuts and tears all along it. Naruto was just hanging from the hook, only semi-conscious. Kyoleth waved his hand, repairing and cleaning Naruto's pajamas before moving him over to a chair. Naruto sat there semi-conscious and drooling for a couple minutes before he awoke with a start. Where am I? What happened? Last thing I remember was being yanked into the sky. Kyoleth, who had already hid his fishing rod and chair, along with fixing the hole in the floor, spoke up. You're awake, Naruto. I am sorry about the rough treatment. But I needed to get you here quickly. It felt like the time my prank with the fishing rod went off early and I got caught with it. It was at that moment that Naruto noticed that Kyoleth was still wearing the fishing hat. You didn't actually use a fishing rod, did you? Kyoleth looked at him with a completely straight face as he said, I admit to nothing. Who are you anyway? Not to mention, where are we? Kyoleth leaned forward, the hat disappearing as he did. My name is Kyoleth, the Celestial Dragon. I am the manager of the multiverse, or in simpler terms, I am a god. Where you currently are is my domain, the Celestial Library. Naruto looked at Kyoleth for a few seconds before he said, Okay, first off, I'm not kneeling to you. You lost that privilege the moment you brought me here with a fishing rod. Why am I here then? You see, Naruto, my job with the multiverse is to try and stop the spread of the forces of chaos. You see, chaos spreads by killing the core of a world, also known as a hero. By doing this, they corrupt the world and turn it into a factory to make more warriors. They are currently targeting your world, Naruto, and you're the hero. So you called me here to warn me? Yes, sadly that is all I really can do right now. You see, your world is rather unique, thus I can't interfere too much. All I can really do is warn you ahead of time, answer a single question, and give you some advice. Naruto sat in the chair for a few minutes, thinking of what he should ask. He wanted to ask something that would help. That's when he thought of a question. What techniques would be most useful against the chaos forces? Kyoleth grinned. That is the right question, Naruto. First, the Hiraishin will definitely come in handy. Another very useful skill will be Sage Mode. But the dragons need to offer you it first. Also, try adding elemental chakra to the Rasengan, but when you do, use shadow clones. Finally, your avatar will be the most useful, but the time you can use that is still a bit off. Naruto sat back. The information Kyoleth gave him was useful. He had planned to learn the Hiraishin, along with training with his avatar once he got strong enough. Sage Mode and Elemental Rasengan was something he hadn't thought of. Kyoleth leaned forward. Now, some advice for you. When you face the forces of chaos, do not hesitate, cut them down. Do not show them mercy, as they will not show you any. Naruto shook his head. One thing you learn about while being a shinobi is to show mercy during battle will just get you killed, Databayo. Good to know. Now it's time to send you back. Kyoleth grabbed his fishing rod. Hold still. Naruto looked at him in confusion. Is it possible for you to, I don't know, snap me back in place? But this is more fun. Not for me. Fine, spoil sport. With those words, Kyoleth snapped his fingers and Naruto disappeared. Somewhere in the Elemental Nations, in a forest in the Elemental Nations, a small tear seemed to appear in the air. After a few seconds it started to expand before a black opening appeared in the air. It was as if it had been made of darkness itself. Out of it stepped 4 people. The first was wearing hooded robes made of black fabric, with the hood down, revealing his tanned face and purple hair that stuck up in every direction. He had glowing purple eyes and a wide, deranged grin on his face. The next one was a woman with pale face and white hair that went down to her back. Her eyes were blue, and unlike her companion, she was calm. She was wearing a tight blue kimono that revealed her curves. The third was a young man with a black hair and black eyes that looked completely dead. He was wearing a black long-sleeved shirt and black pants with black gloves. The only flesh of his that was exposed was his pale white face. The final one was a woman who had blood-red hair and green eyes. Her face was set in a permanent scowl. She was the one who spoke. So this world is our target, huh? The white-haired woman said in a monotone voice. Yes, our target is Naruto Uzumaki. But because of the rules of the world, we are unable to kill him for 3 more years. The purple-haired man let out an insane laugh. It doesn't mean we can't fuck with him till then. Let me do it, please, I rarely get to fuck with heroes. The red-haired woman nodded. Fine, Kyoki, you'll be our first strike. Taiketsu, I need you to find a way into the Akatsuki organization. They'll be very important in the long haul. Sure, I need you to begin to set up the preparation for the plan. The Taiketsu spoke up. Understood, Ikari. The black-haired man nodded as he said in a dead voice. Yes, Ikari. The man named Kyoki laughed as he said. Sounds like a plan, boss man. Then let's begin. This world shall become the latest territory of chaos. With those words, the three vanished. Little did they know they were being watched by a figure cloaked in shadows. So they have begun to make their move. I need to inform him, then I will watch. The figure faded into the shadows slowly. Interlude 2, The First Signs of Chaos. It has been 2 years since the Chunin Exams in Kumo. Naruto and Hinata were both 16 and they were both jonin now. A lot has happened in those 2 years. Hinata and Naruto had become a team and went on multiple missions. Sometimes Kakashi would join. 8 months after the incident with Tsunade chasing Jiraiya, she had given birth to their daughter. A girl with straight white hair and light brown eyes. They had named her Mito, and named Naruto her godfather. Hinata was named the godmother. A couple months afterwards, Jiraiya and Tsunade had gotten married. Shortly afterwards, the Ika Ika Paradise books were finished. Jiraiya then tried writing an adventure novel again. Oddly enough, it was more popular than the Ika Ika Paradise books. Naruto had still yet to figure out what his avatar actually did. He was waiting for when Kurama said it was safe to use. Kurama said he should be able to use it by his 17th birthday. Last year, after his 15th birthday, Naruto was given the seal for Kurama's seal. He promptly opened it to let Kurama out. But Kurama couldn't share chakra with him in the purest state because Yami still existed. Yami would exist till Naruto could reach a location that had the special meditation area necessary for them to fuse. It was something needed for all Jinchuruki that wished to work with their bijou as friends. This had actually led to a very interesting encounter. He had learned of one of the safety features left by his father. Flashback last year, Naruto looked at the cage holding his friend Kurama as he said, "Are you ready, Kurama?" "Yes, now open this cage, I want to stretch my legs a bit. It's cramped in here." Harry reached up to grab the seal to pull it away to reveal the lock. When a hand grabbed his arm and pulled him away. "Whoa there, Naruto, wait a minute." Naruto turned to see the fourth Hokage standing there holding his arm. Naruto did something that he had been wanting to do for a while. He punched Minato Namikaze in the gut hard enough to force the man to bend. When he removed his fist, Minato ended up puking on the ground. During that time, Naruto undid the seal and Kurama stood up to stretch. "Thanks, Kit, we'll work on controlling my chakra later. Have a nice talk with your dad." Naruto turned to Minato, who was slowly standing up. "What was that for?" Naruto shrugged. "It was payback for sealing a giant 9-tailed fox in my gut when I was born. As much as I like Kurama, he's still not a very good birthday present, Databeo. Fuck you, I am goddamn adorable." The two ignored Kurama as Minato rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "Okay, fair enough. I won't deny I kind of deserved that. So how are you here anyway?" "When I made the seal, I put 2 safeguards in it. One to summon me when the seal was coming undone. It's kind of useless in its original form since you and Kurama are friends. But at least I get to see the man my son has become. I got to look at some of your memories after you punched me. You ended up just like Kushina. She was right, I guess she proved that you never doubt a mother's instincts. How long will you be here?" "Since I didn't have to fix the seal, 30 minutes. How about we talk for a bit? I want to get to know my son." Present day, in Training Ground 42, that time spent talking with Minato had been heaven for Naruto. He was so happy to talk to his father. Not to mention Minato had mentioned that he would get to meet Kushina when he started undergoing the process to become a perfect Jinchuruki. Naruto couldn't wait to meet his mother. Currently Naruto was standing in the training ground, surrounded by throwing knives embedded all around him. In the ground, the tree trunks, one was even embedded in a boulder nearby. Each throwing knife was covered in intricate kanji that formed a whirlpool in the center of the blade. Naruto had grown taller over the past 2 years. He was now 175 centimeters. His attire was mostly unchanged, except for the addition of a pair of black wristbands. Shingetsu's bracelet was placed slightly above the wristbands. The sentient sword had been asleep for the past month. Naruto would be worried about it, if Shingetsu hadn't warned him that he would occasionally nap for long periods of time. Naruto had finally reached a level where he could make the seals for the Hiraishin. But just making the seals and being able to use them weren't the only requirements for this jutsu. The Hiraishin worked through a connection of the seal placed on Naruto's chest. This connects to the seals that are active, building a space bridge between the two locations. The seal then converts Naruto's body into light, sending him through the bridge. He reforms on the other side, thus creating a green flash. The flash color is decided by his strongest chakra nature, in this case green for wind. In this story, Minato's strongest chakra nature was lightning, thus the yellow flash. The process is instantaneous. But the jutsu had a major downside, the fact it puts massive strain on the body. Transforming into light to pass through the space bridge damages the body. To be able to use the technique on the level of what Naruto's father did during the Second Shinobi War, he would have to build up resistance to the damage, thus making his body tougher. Thus the setup in the training ground. Naruto stood in place, his eyes were closed as he channeled his chakra through the seal on his chest. As he did, he could sense each one of the counterpart seals. With a flash of green, Naruto vanished and reappeared on one of the tree trunks. Instinctively using chakra to cling to the trunk, he picked up the knife and sealed it away, with his eyes still closed. With another flash, he disappeared and appeared in the field. He kept flashing around the training ground. Each time he did, he collected the throwing knife he appeared at before flashing away. This went on 12 times in total before he had to stop. Naruto fell to the ground. Less than half the throwing knives had been collected. His body was aching. The damage done by the jumps was painful. But it would be worth it in the end. Naruto tapped the seal on one of his pouches and all the out knives flashed before being pulled into the pouch. He leaned back and looked up at the sky. As he did, something flashed through his mind. His meeting with Kyoleth. Kurama, do you think we will be ready? Kit, I'm not sure if we will be. But we will have to be as ready as we possibly can be. Not only will we have to deal with these chaos forces, but we have the Akatsuki. There is no time for doubt. You need to face forward and keep moving. You and your mate have gotten pretty strong over the past 2 years. Thanks, Kurama. How strong would you say we are? A rank, no doubt about that. If all goes well, you too should enter S rank by the end of the year. But you'll have a lot of training to reach the level of Itachi. That's good to know. Damn, my body hurts. Naruto pulled out a pocket watch and checked the time. After he put it away, he slowly stood up and started walking out of the training ground. He wouldn't be able to do any more training for today. Hinata was still on her shift at the hospital. So he was going to get some ramen. 2 days later, Hokage office. Naruto stood in the Hokage office with Hinata and Kakashi. In front of them was Jiraiya, whose face was extremely serious. Thank you 3 for coming. I have a mission I need you 3 to accept. Kakashi was the one who asked. What is the mission, Hokage-sama? Naruto raised his hand. Before that, why is Nico visible? He pointed at the purple-haired Umbu as he said this. Nico was indeed visible and was standing next to Jiraiya's desk. Jiraiya sighed as he said, apparently after my shadow clone's last attempt to get out of paperwork, I am required to have a responsible adult here at all times. I'm also not allowed to use shadow clones to do paperwork for 2 months. Naruto snickered. He had witnessed that event. No one realized that the revolt had been started by a henge, one of his shadow clones. It had been an amazing prank. Jiraiya ignored it as he said, now the mission is extremely important. Last month, a village called Joru went completely silent. We sent a team of 4 Chunin to investigate it, but they have disappeared. You 3 are to investigate what happened to the team, as well as what happened to the village. He tossed Kakashi a scroll as he continued speaking. The information you'll need and some items of the Chunin so you can track them are in this scroll. Are there any questions? They all shook their heads. Jiraiya dismissed them and they left. Kakashi took charge since he was the one with the most experience. Pack for at least 2 weeks and meet me at the East Gate in 2 hours. Naruto and Hinata both headed for the Uzumaki compound. As they moved, Naruto summoned multiple clones to take care of things, while Hinata sent off one to notify their friends about their mission. As they entered the compound, a sound came from the bracelet on Naruto's wrist. It seemed that Shingetsu was awake. "How long have I been asleep?" "About a month. You were out like a light. I'm surprised you woke up already." "I was having such a nice dream. I was dreaming of the time Shanks was having a party, and he decided to leave me in a barrel full of sake. Before then I didn't even know I could get drunk. Naruto, I want a barrel of high-quality sake for my birthday." Naruto facepalmed as he entered the house. "Shingetsu, you don't even know your birthday. Not to mention, you're not getting a barrel of high-quality sake until I get a swimming pool full of ramen. Why do you have to ruin my happiness?" "Hinata, Naruto is picking on me." Hinata spoke up. "Don't worry, Shingetsu, you woke up just in time to join us on the upcoming mission." "Oh, what's the mission?" Naruto frowned as he said. "We're investigating a village that has gone silent and 4 Chunin who vanished investigating it." "Sounds interesting, glad I woke up for it." 2 hours later, Naruto and Hinata landed at the east gate and looked around. They just had to wait for Kakashi, he would be there soon. A few minutes later there was a puff of smoke and out of it was Kakashi. "Sorry, I got lost on the road of life." Naruto grinned. "Well, at least someone gave you a map." As they signed out of the village, Kakashi said, "The village of Joru is 3 hours away by shinobi speeds. When we arrive there should be a good 4 more hours till sundown. This will give us time to do preliminary investigations and set up camp. Are there any questions?" Neither Naruto or Hinata had any questions, so they jumped into the trees and began to travel towards Joru, unaware of what was awaiting them. The village of Joru. 3 hours later, the 3 Jonin were in the trees studying the village of Joru. It was silent and dark, not a good combination. There were no children laughing, no animals making sounds. There were no sounds you would hear in a village at all. It was unnerving how quiet it was. Naruto frowned. There is no way that a village can be that quiet at 3 in the afternoon. Hinata deactivated her Byakugan. "I can't see into the house. Something is blocking my sight. Maybe we should send in a group of shadow clones to scout the place first." Kakashi nodded. "I think that is a good idea, Hinata. We need to at least find out what happened to the village." With that, they all made a shadow clone and sent them into the village. They waited on the tree branch to find out what their clones would learn. With the shadow clones, the 3 shadow clones slowly walked towards the village. Kakashi's clone was buried face first into his book. Naruto's clone was mumbling and muttering rebellious thoughts, all the while Hinata's clone was trying to keep Naruto's clone from rebelling. I will now refer to them by their names, without clone attached. It's too much work otherwise, and I'm really lazy. Damn original using us as free labor. How dare they treat us like this? Clones have feelings too, you know. Kakashi spoke up, still reading his book. Hear, hear. Kakashi-san, you're not helping. Naruto-kun, calm down. I refuse to be called Naruto or clone anymore. My new name is Bob. With original Naruto, unlike most, Naruto had a slight connection to his shadow clones thanks to Kurama and Yami. So Naruto was hearing everything his clone was saying. Yami was laughing his ass off, while Kurama was encouraging the clone's rebellion. Naruto facepalmed as he said, "Why did he choose Bob of all names?" Yami managed to speak between his laughter. "I don't know, but I like that clone's style. Can we keep him, please?" "No, if he survives whatever is going on in the village, I will personally dispel him." With the clones, Kakashi spoke again. "Good choice, brother." Hinata looked at Kakashi, who had his nose buried in his book as they entered the village. "Are you even listening to what we are saying?" "Hear, hear." Hinata facepalmed. "He isn't listening. Naruto." "Bob! I'm not calling you Bob." It would seem that even Hinata doesn't have infinite patience. As the 3 explored the abandoned village, they soon realized every building had something in common. There were strange markings on each building that glowed a sickly light when in the shadow. The blonde-haired clone looked around. "Bob doesn't like the looks of this." Suddenly a voice rang out. "So your name is Bob, and you refer to yourself in third person?" Is your last name Do by any chance? Standing on the roof of the building in front of them was a man wearing a long black robe that completely covered his body with a hood. The hood was down through, revealing his purple hair that stuck up in every direction, and his bright glowing purple eyes. His mouth was stretched in a deranged grin. Nice to meet you, Bob Dole. My name is Kyoki. Kakashi looked up from his book. Do you know what happened to this village? Kyoki answered in a sing-song voice. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Why should I tell you, shadow clones? Bob spoke up. I resent being called a clone. I am my own person. Kyoki's grin widened. I like you? Too bad I'm going to have to carve out your heart and eat it. Everyone froze. Kakashi looked at him and said, You wouldn't happen to worship Jashin, would you? I've heard those guys have some weird tastes. Kyoki frowned. Nope, I have nothing to do with that weak god. Oh, you know what, it's no fun talking to shadow clones. So I'm going to kill you three now so I can have some fun with the originals. With those words he held out his arm and a massive scythe appeared in a burst of darkness. The scythe was massive with a black handle easily as tall as him. The blade was blood red, half as long as the handle, and had various runes carved into it. At the base of the scythe handle was a wicked-looking blade that looked sharp enough to cut through iron like butter. Kyoki spun it with ease. With an insane cackle he jumped down and swung his scythe down. The three clones jumped away and the scythe impaled into the ground like a hot knife through butter. He pulled his scythe out of the ground just in time to see Kakashi and Hinata's clones dispel, leaving the insane Naruto clone. You're not going to dispel? I refuse to go back to the oppressor. I am not the same as him, so I refuse to dispel till I get fair wages and equal treat. Gak. That sound was from a knife spouting from his chest before he dispelled. Kyoki nodded as he said, As much as I liked him, I needed him to go. He was really cramping my style. Now to begin the first strike in the beginning of the war. He began to laugh insanely. As he did this, 3 sets of glowing yellow eyes appeared in the darkness of the houses around him. With the original Jonin, Hinata and Kakashi blinked when their clones' memories returned. They both turned to look at Naruto, who was still watching the village. A few seconds later he blinked and face-bombed. God damn it, my clones are unionizing? Naruto tried to ignore the sounds of Yami and Kurama laughing their asses off in his mind. Kakashi was looking like he wanted to laugh, while Hinata was patting his back. He sighed before he said, So what is the plan to deal with the insane guy with the giant scythe? Kakashi, who had been looking through the bingo book, said, He's nowhere in the bingo book. In fact, the only side user in the bingo book is Hyden the Zealot, who oddly enough worships Jashin. Hinata, who was using her Byakugan, shook her head. I can see him, but it's like he has no chakra coils. He also seems to be dancing and singing in the village square. I don't recognize the language. With Kyoki was currently dancing around the village square, spinning his scythe and using it for balance as he sang in English. A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. He spun his scythe around as he turned around. Set on a small wall nearby was a small machine set up to speakers playing the music that Kyoki was singing along with. One of the beings in the shadow said, What the hell is he singing now? Another appeared next to him. I don't know, apparently it's popular where he comes from. A third spoke up from across the street. At least he's no longer on about the ponies, and the friendship, and the wrapping up of winter. The first set of eyes said, Our new boss is a very messed up individual. Team Kakashi. He also has throwing knives. I know this because that's how my clone Bob died. Naruto made air quotes when he said his clone's new name. Kakashi frowned. He doesn't have chakra, but that doesn't mean we should underestimate him. It is very possible he has a seal to hide them, or it's also possible that it is a decoy. Naruto tapped his chin as he said, I could go in and attack him first, before you two sneak in and attack him while he's fighting me. Or I could send in a horde of shadow clones first to buy us time to set up our attack. Kakashi thought about the options before he said, I think the second idea is the best option. How many clones should I make then? Do you think 100 would be enough? Naruto at this time could make around 600 safely, and each one be able to cast a C-class ninjutsu. His chakra reserves were insane. Kakashi thought for a moment before saying, "Go with 200 to be safe." Naruto did the familiar cross-shaped hand sign, and with a large puff of smoke, there were 200 shadow clones. Naruto didn't need to give them an order, as they all headed off. Except for one which stood in front of Naruto. "What do you need?" "I demand equal treatment and rights for us clones. Also you are required, gak." The sound that came out of the clone's mouth was it being shut up by kunai between the eyes. "Why are my clones trying to unionize? I don't treat them that bad, do I?" Hinata shook her head. "Not really, I mean you use them a lot in training and studying. Could it just be Yami messing with you?" The snickering in Naruto's mind confirmed Hinata's theory. "God damn it, Yami, stop trying to make my clones unionize." Nah. I'm having fun messing with your clones. It gets boring in your head all the time, Naruto." Naruto sighed. Kakashi looked at him. Hinata was right, wasn't she? Yes, Yami is making those clones act weird. Apparently he's bored. Kakashi patted Naruto's back. "Don't worry, you'll get your chance to go to Kumo's training island next year. Then you will be completely free of having to deal with Yami." "I resent that. Naruto doesn't deal with me, I deal with him. I am his better half after all." Pthahaha. Sorry I couldn't keep a straight face. "Well then, how about you be quiet then?" "Fine, I'll be quiet and enjoy the show." Naruto blinked when the first of the shadow clone memories came to him. "Okay, we need to get in position now. Also, this guy is completely insane." Naruto made 100 more clones and sent them into the village. After he did, the three of them hopped up on the village roofs and began to head into the village stealthily. When they got in place to see the village square, they saw an unexpected sight. Village square. A few minutes ago, Kyoki grinned as he looked at the horde of blonde shinobi right in front of him. "Mind giving me a moment to set up some epic battle music?" The Narutos all looked at each other and shrugged. The lead said, "I don't see why not." Kyoki grinned as he messed with the little machine for a few seconds before the sound of guitars began to play. "It's Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses." His deranged grin grew as he said, "Well, shall we, gentlemen?" The clones all charged at him, their swords drawn. Kyoki began to spin his scythe almost faster than the eyes could as he started to weave and slash his way through the horde. He sang along with the music. "Welcome to the jungle, we've got fun and games. We got everything you want, honey, we know the names. We are the people that can find whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease." As he sang, he had easily cut through 40 clones. The sheer fierceness of his attack shocked the clones. Not to mention his fighting style made it hard to hit him. Kyoki tossed the scythe into the air before he spun around quickly. As he did, the knives flew out from his spinning form, easily killing 10 of the shocked clones. Kyoki stopped spinning and caught his scythe, giving one last spin to slice through 5 clones that had gotten too close. He let out an insane laugh as he charged forward again, dodging and blocking throwing knives. In this case, the number of clones were actually a disadvantage in this fight. They couldn't make use of jutsu because they would likely hit other clones. Not to mention quite a few of their copied seal knives would cause friendly fire. Less than 5 minutes into the fight and Kyoki had destroyed close to 100 clones. It was at that moment that the music changed. A drum beat began to sound. Kyoki's grin seemed to split his face as he began to sing. "Oh, it's been getting so hard. Living with the things you do to me. My dreams are getting so strange. I'd like to tell you everything I see." The ballroom blitzed by the suite. One of the clones looked at his brother as he said, "Are we seriously getting our asses kicked by an insane person who is singing as he hands us our asses? Not to mention we can't even understand what he's singing." Before the second clone could answer, they were both cut in half by Kyoki. "No talking while I'm playing with you all!" With those words he jumped back into the horde, laughing the entire time. With Team Kakashi, the three of them were looking at what was going on in the village square in shock. Kyoki's fighting style wasn't sane at all. It was so chaotic and all over the place that it shouldn't work. Yet somehow it did. It was almost like he was flipping off reality at times. As sometimes when it looked like he missed, the clone would still dispel. Shingitsu spoke up from his spot on Naruto's waist. Naruto, that guy isn't using chakra. He's using something completely different. It's actually warping reality a bit every time it's used. It also feels completely disgusting. Ugh, thank God I can't absorb energy through my clones. I'm going to warn you, when I absorb the energy he's using, I don't plan to give it to you. That stuff is seriously messed up. I'll just expel it into the air. Any idea what it could be, Shingetsu? Honestly, it feels similar to an energy I once felt in a spar between your mother and father. You dad had just learned the basics of Sage Mode. It feels really similar but at the same time the exact opposite of the nature chakra used in Sage Mode. Naruto flinched when he got the memories of a newly dispelled clone. One that had undergone an unwilling neutering. Okay, what the heck? What happened, Naruto-kun? The latest clone that was dispelled via an unwanted neutering. Kakashi flinched when he said that. Before he did it, the guy just kind of froze and looked off into the distance and said, "You see kids, this is why the story is rated M." What in the world does that even mean? What story? There were now less than 50 clones and they finally had enough room to cast some ninjutsu. The song had changed again and now had an extremely upbeat tune. Tiptoe through the window. By the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. I highly doubt I need to put this note here, but I still will. It is Tiny Tim tiptoe through the tulips. As he cut down the final clone, he spun to block a blade that was aimed at his back as he grinned. Well, it's nice to meet you face to face, Naruto Uzumaki. The real one, I mean. The two jumped back from each other, and Kyoki charged forward. His scythe is a blur, but Naruto blocked or parried each and every single strike without so much as a wound. Oh, you're so much more fun to play with than your clones. How do you keep blocking my attacks? Naruto had trained his haki over the past 2 years almost religiously. He had even spent about 2 months blindfolded outside of missions with his eyes blindfolded. This had helped his kenjutsu style to evolve. His armament haki was much stronger now. It could protect him from a Rasengan hit. Naruto smiled as he said, "You honestly expect a shinobi to spill his secrets?" Kyoki tilted his head before saying, "Pretty please? With ramen on top?" When he said that, a bowl of ramen appeared on top of his head, pushing down his purple hair. Naruto looked at the bowl of ramen for a few seconds before he said, "Tempting. I feel like if you weren't an insane murderer who was trying to cut my head off, we would get along like a house on fire." "Oh, I'm sure we would, especially if you gave into your inclination to chaos, Naruto. It's so nice to have the limits on your mind removed. It's so fun being chaotic." Naruto frowned as he said, "I see, you're one of the ones Kyoleth warned me about 2 years ago. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not." Kyoki broke off from the clash before spinning away from his location where a purple chakra lion impacted, creating a crater. "You'll never know till it's much too late." Naruto blocked another strike as Kyoki dodged Hinode being thrust at his head. He then ducked under a lightning blade strike that came very close to his torso. It was at that moment that Kyoki said, "Oh, now I see how you're blocking my attacks." Naruto was shocked to hear that, but the next part put him at ease. "Your sword absorbs energy, huh? That explains how you're blocking my scythe, even when it's clad in chaos energy. No wonder I can't rewrite my strikes to hit you. Oh well, you know what time it is." He spun his scythe quickly and words appeared above him. "Dissection time!" It was Kakashi that spoke up. "How did you make those words appear?" Kyoki looked at him as if he was the insane one. "What words?" Kakashi sighed. "Never mind." Kyoki grinned. "Don't think you two can interrupt my fight, by the way. I have some very special friends for you." It was at that moment that 3 figures came out from the darkness. Their bodies were covered in black and sickly yellow growth all over their bodies. Their eyes glowed the same shade of yellow. It was impossible to see their features through the growth, the only identifying thing they had. All three were wearing Konoha Chunin vests. Kakashi glared at him. "What did you do to them?" Kyoki's demented giggling stopped just long enough for him to answer. "Oh, those three couldn't handle their dose of chaos energy. That's what happens when you can't hold your chaos energy. Of course, it could be because I forced them to accept the chaos energy, but who knows?" With those words he attacked Naruto again. Hinata and Kakashi stood ready to fight their new enemies. While they were slowly walking towards them, it was obvious they were moving slowly on purpose, most likely to try and make them underestimate them. The former Chunins rushed the two, moving at speeds equal to that of Might Guy without his weights on. Kakashi dodged two attacks from the two former Chunin that targeted him. Hinata had blocked the attack from her opponent with the use of a rotation. Naruto parried another strike and then dropped back into a one-handed handstand as he spun around, kicking the insane man in the face and knocking him back. He flipped back up and lunged forward, his sword glowing. Meteor! Kyoki was forced to dodge out of the way. Kakashi kicked the legs of one of the Chunin out from under him and stabbed a kunai between his glowing yellow eyes, seeing them go dark as he did. He then spun around and Spartan kicked the other Chunin in the chest, knocking him back. He raced through several hand signs before his hand was engulfed in a blade of blue lightning. Lightning blade! He rushed forward and his hand pierced through the other Chunin's chest like a hot knife through butter. He pulled his arm out, and with a flick removed the blood from his arm. He took a moment to pray for the souls of the two Chunin he had been forced to kill. This wasn't the first time he had been forced to kill a comrade who was being controlled. Heck, it wasn't even the second time. It was one thing that any Chunin was forced to learn. There were techniques that could turn your allies into puppets or weapons. Almost all of these techniques were impossible to break. Some destroyed the victim's free will. Others forcibly locked their personality away. Yet others literally turned their loyalties on their heads. It was the general consensus of all Chunin that if they were put under one of these techniques, that they would rather die than kill their former comrades. Hinata dodged out of the way of another attack before she spun and struck the Chunin in the chest with Hinode. This knocked the Chunin back a bit. Hinata took advantage of this to deliver a palm strike to the Chunin chest, releasing enough chakra to make his heart explode. As the Chunin fell to the ground dead, she took a moment to pray for the fallen before turning to go help Naruto. Naruto and Kyoki were engaged in what could only be described as a dance of death. Kyoki's scythe was constantly spinning. The scythe or the blade on the bottom of the handle is always clashing against Shingetsu. Meanwhile, Naruto would use Shingetsu to parry and block all of Kyoki's attacks, countering with kicks but only when he had a large enough opening to avoid having a leg cut off. He didn't want to have to test his armament hockey against that scythe. Suddenly Kyoki slammed the blade of his scythe into the ground and flipping onto the handle, spinning on his hand to kick at Naruto, who barely managed to dodge the kick. He then flipped forward, pulling the scythe out of the ground and bringing it down on Naruto, who rolled out of the way. It was as Naruto parried a strike from the blade at the bottom of Kyoki's scythe that the man was forced to dodge another strike from behind. Hinata and Kakashi had put down their enemies. Hinata's face wasn't its usual gentle self. Instead, it was now blank, lacking all emotions. She was keeping her emotions under control. She was feeling both angry and guilty from the fact she was forced to kill someone who used to be a comrade. It hadn't hit her till after she had killed the Chunin. Kyoki giggled as he said, "Oh, why the long faces? Didn't enjoy my present?" Kyoki rushed at them with blades slicing through the air. Naruto blocked it, redirecting the energy before blocking the blade fully with Shingetsu, locking him in place. When he did, Hinata rushed forward, her staff extended to strike him in the chest. Kyoki spun around the strike and let out an insane giggle as he let go of his scythe and jumped out of the way of a fireball that was about to hit him. As the scythe fell, Naruto held Shingetsu with both hands as he began to flow his chakra through it. As he did, Shingetsu began to glow gold. The glow was so bright that it made Shingetsu's black blade look like it was forged from gold. Naruto looked at Kyoki, the very world around him slowing around as he did. He charged forward at such high speed he became a blur. Rising Sun Slash. Shingetsu seemed to grow, soon being 3 times the size it usually is. Naruto slashed across Kyoki's body, leaving a glowing slash mark which burst and launched Kyoki into a building. As the insane man hit the building, he burst into a plume of purple smoke, same with his scythe. That's when laughter sounds from the building behind them. Good job, of course I left the opening for you to strike. You're quite skilled, Naruto. They turned to see the man standing there, leaning on his scythe as he grinned. The slash mark was still visible, revealing that they had been fighting the real one. But the question is, will you be ready to face the others in a few months? I don't think you will. Next time we meet, I'll make sure to bring some real Chaos soldiers. Not those puppets I made with those so-called shinobi. Till next we meet, have fun and always watch out for chickens. With that, he burst into a plume of purple smoke and disappeared. Naruto dropped to the ground as he panted. He was dead tired. Having to use haki to block each of those strikes was insane, not to mention the rising sun slash along with its counterpart moonless sky were two techniques he had only recently finished making. The rising sun slash relied on yang chakra, which he had massive amounts of as an Uzumaki clan member. The moonless sky relies on yin chakra. His body naturally produces lots of yin chakra to keep his body balanced thanks to the excess yang chakra that comes from being an Uzumaki, and having Kurama's yang half sealed inside him. His goal is to eventually be able to combine the two chakra natures for a truly powerful attack. Kakashi, who had sent off 2 shadow clones to check the homes, turned to his 2 comrades. We need to get out of here and report to Hokage-sama. What we learned here could be important. If we move quickly enough, we should be able to reach the village before nightfall. Naruto stood up and rubbed Hinata's back. Hinata was staring off into the distance. While it wasn't her first time killing someone, that was during their Chunin exams in Kumo. It was her first time having to kill a compromised comrade, even if they couldn't see their faces. It's okay, Hinata-chan. I doubt he would blame you. Come on, let's go home. He kissed her forehead and she gave him a weak smile. Although still bothered by what she was forced to do, she knew she wouldn't be alone. 3 hours later, the Hokage office, Jiraiya sat with his hands together. To the side were 4 shadow clones that were doing paperwork. He was currently thinking about what Team Kakashi had just revealed. It was troubling to say the least. Not only this guy managed to destroy a horde of several hundred of Naruto's clones. He had also held off Naruto, Hinata, and Kakashi until he decided to let Naruto hit him. Not to mention how he corrupted the Chunin. But what he implied, that he wasn't alone in all this. This wasn't good at all. Thank you for the report, Team Kakashi. You 3 did a very good job. Before they could reply, through the door was thrown open as a Chunin raced in. Hokage-sama, there's a disturbance at the north gate. The guards there report that 5 sound shinobi with a young boy are currently heading towards it. One is confirmed as Kabuto Yakushi, and he's almost carrying another man. We believe the other man is injured. Jiraiya shot up. You 3 with me. Nico, I need you to tell Danzo that Kabuto is here and he is to meet me at the north gate. Let's go, Team Kakashi. The 4 rushed out, leaving the shadow clones. One of the shadow clones turned to the others as he said, So, want to burn the paperwork? The other 3 clones quickly agreed. At the northern gates, 10 minutes later, Kabuto was holding up Kimimaro with the help of Hyuga as they, Gyurin, Yukimaru, and Karen walked towards the gate. Danzo had assigned Kabuto to spy on Orochimaru, and he had been for the past few years. The 3 with him were his only remaining allies. The rest of Gyurin's team had been killed in the escape from Otogekure. Kabuto had witnessed when Sasuke had killed Orochimaru and absorbed all his knowledge with an obscure technique. He had gathered his team, Karen and Hyuga, who had been called back to the main base for experiments, and Gyurin's team had fled Otogekure. Sasuke and Sakura, who had taken control by then, had sent the Sound 4 after them. They managed to escape with their lives thanks to Gyurin's team holding them off. They had managed to lose them, he was certain of it. Don't worry, Kimimaro, Tsunade will be able to heal your sickness. I'm absolutely certain of it. If she can't, she can at least delay it long enough for Naruto-kun to be able to use one of the Uzumaki clan's medical seals to heal it. Kimimaro coughed weakly, blood coming from his mouth. I hope she can, Kabuto. I don't want to leave you go alone. I know what it's like to be alone. Then you'll get along with Naruto-kun like a house on fire. From what I heard, he knows what it's like to be alone as well. They had reached the gates when Girin walked towards him and took the arm Kabuto had draped over him. Here, I'll help Kimimaro. You talk to the Konoha shinobi and convince them not to try and kill us. Kabuto walked forward, his hands in plan view. When he reached the sealed gate, he said, I need to speak to Danzo. I am the root Umbu known as Hibi. I have a report on my mission. We are willing to submit ourselves to the TNI department, but our companion Kimimaro is very ill. He needs treatment from Tsunade Senju. A few seconds later, the gate creaked open and out walked Jiraiya, Danzo, and Team Kakashi with multiple Umbu and root agents following behind them. Danzo walked forward as he said, You'll be escorted to TNI Agent Hibi. Once there you will be debriefed. Your friend will be treated as well. Kabuto bowed his head. Thank you so much, Danzo-sama. Danzo turned to the Umbu and root as he said, Escort Kabuto and his allies to the TNI department. Also bring Inochi and Ibiki, as we will need them to test that they are all who they say they are. The agents escorted the group into the village as Jiraiya turned to Danzo. Were you expecting your spy to come back so soon, Danzo? Danzo shook his head as they headed into the village. When they entered the village, the gates closed behind them, being set into night mode as the sun had fully set. No, he wouldn't have come back unless his mission was compromised. But the question is, what exactly happened? Jiraiya nodded. Well, we will soon have all the information. I just hope Kabuto doesn't hold a grudge against Naruto for the Rasengan. The next morning, Hokage office, Ibiki had just finished giving his report to Jiraiya and Danzo. Tsunade was currently in TNI trying to heal the young man named Kimimaro. Luckily, she said it was possible to treat, as she knew the illness. It was a rather rare illness known as red swamp fever. Luckily, a cure had been created recently. Kimimaro would survive, but he would be bed-locked for a few weeks. Ibiki and Inochi had interviewed them extensively, and Inochi had done a mind walk on each of them. They were who they said they were, and they were all loyal to Konoha. Danzo sighed. This is not very good. Orochimaru is dead and the traitor Uchiha has all his knowledge. At least Kabuto managed to get away with the remainder of his team. Jiraiya sighed. I'll need to call Itachi back ahead of time. He needs to be treated so he can take care of Sasuke. When he learned about what Sasuke did, he said he had to be the one to kill Sasuke. Danzo nodded. We'll need a place to put Kabuto and his team. Do you think Naruto would mind letting them stay in one of his clan's family houses? That Karen girl is in Uzumaki. Not to mention Naruto and Hinata can keep an eye on them then. Jiraiya tapped the desk slowly. It's a good idea. I'll talk to him about that later. I can make it a mission to sweeten the deal. Have you figured out who you're going to assign Itachi to work with? I was thinking Team Kakashi would be perfect. They will be on the front lines against Akatsuki. Good plan, Jiraiya. You have Kakashi, who is easily the third strongest shinobi currently in the village. Kakashi reached S rank over the past 2 years. Itachi, who knows information on each Akatsuki member, and would have become Hiruzen's successor if he hadn't been forced to go into banishment. Hinata is a medic nin and is Tsunade's personal student. She's also a terror in the arts of taijutsu and genjutsu, not to mention the long-range juho. Finally, you have Naruto, a ninjutsu and fuinjutsu hard hitter. He is also well trained in kenjutsu, taijutsu. Even though he is one of Akatsuki's targets, it's probably better for him to be on the front lines. Surrounded by powerful comrades and attacking the Akatsuki head-on is always better than being pulled back and being bait for them. 2 S-rank shinobi, and 2 A-rank borderline S-rank shinobi, it will be a terrifying team. Has the Reikage agreed to allow Naruto to use the Jinchuruki training grounds yet? He said Naruto can use it once he turns 17. Jiraiya had been working on a letter as they spoke. He finished it, and once it was sealed, he summoned a messenger toad. Take this to Itachi Uchiha, make sure he's alone before delivering it. The messenger toad nodded before disappearing in a plume of smoke. Now we need to prepare for his arrival. In 4 months, the Akatsuki will begin to move. We will be ready for them. Omake, why Hinata is still Yo rather than Hyuga. Alternate title, The Day the Caged Bird Seal Died, Hokage Office. A week after the massive prank, Hinata was in the Hokage office with Naruto. In front of them was Hiraishin, who had an annoyed look on his face. It wasn't from what either of them had done, the elders had become almost unbearable again. Hinata, the elders want me to extend an offer to graciously let you back into the clan as a member of the branch family. Naruto, have you finished the counter seal yet? Naruto gave a feral grin and held up 2 small scrolls. One was blue, and the other was red. I finished it the other night. This one will erase the caged bird seal. He shook the red scroll. This blue one is the new seal for the Hyuga clan. I still love how you tricked them into agreeing to it. Hiraishin returned the grin with one of his own. It's not my fault that the elders don't read what they are signing. His face became more gentle as he said, Are you sure you won't want to rejoin the clan once the seals are in place, Hinata? Hinata smiled gently at her father. I'm absolutely certain, father. I am a Yule now, until the day I marry Naruto and take the Uzumaki name. Hiraishin shook his head. She had inherited her mother's stubbornness. Sadly, it only showed after she had true support to grow. Well, you will always be welcome at the compound. Your sister will be happy when you begin to visit. 2 days later, Hiraishin was in his office filling out paperwork when his office door was thrown open and the 4 elders stepped in, including his father, who was barely managing to keep his poker face. Elder Meijo, the only woman among the elders, stepped forward and said, Hiraishin-sama, you must put a stop to it. Your disgrace of a daughter and the demon are unsealing the branch family. They say they have a law-binding contract signed by all of us. But we never signed a contract. Hiraishin looked at them with a feral grin as he pulled out his copy of the contract. Oh, but you see, esteemed elders. You all did do it. Such a shame you didn't bother to read the paperwork you were signing. As you all agreed to let the caged bird seal be destroyed and a new bloodline seal without the despicable pain feature applied to all the Hyuga clan members. Not to mention, you signed all your powers away, making you all figureheads, leaving all the power in the clan head. Hiraishin was glad he had Naruto write up the contracts. There was a reason why no one ever dared to break a contract with an Uzumaki clan. As their contracts were basically loophole-free, and if they were broken, well, the penalties were horrifying. The elders were speechless. They couldn't believe that with a single signature they had lost all their power. Hiraishin's father, on the other hand, was smiling. I'm glad it worked, Hiraishin. I'm going to go get my new seal and then enjoy my retirement. With those words, he left the room. The elders were too shocked to raise a fuss and left as well. Hiraishin grinned as while the door was open he could hear the sound of Hanabi and Hinata talking. He leaned back in his chair as he looked at the ceiling and thought to himself, You know, Minato, I'd bet if you and Kushina were still alive, you would be so happy to know we would be in-laws. I can't wait to see my grandchildren. If they end up awakening the Byakugan, I wonder if Hinata will let me train them in the Junken. Life was good for the Hyuga clan head. Chapter 9: The New Team. Naruto sat on the couch in his living room, watching Kabuto teach Karen medical ninjutsu. It had been little more than 3 months since Kabuto's team had arrived. He still remembered how they ended up staying here. Flashback: 3 months ago, Naruto stood in the Hokage office, staring at Jiraiya as if he had lost his mind. You want me to what? Jiraiya sighed. He had known that this would happen. Danzo sat in a chair next to the desk. By his side was a young man with pale skin and black hair with a fake smile on his face. His name was Sai. Danzo spoke up again. We want to request you allow Kabuto and his team to stay in the Uzumaki compound. One of his team members is Karen Uzumaki, one of your clanmates. Let me just make sure I've got this right. You're asking me to allow the guy who worked for Orochimaru stay in my compound with his team? Kabuto was my spy this whole time. It is because of him that we did not suffer quite as much damage as we could have during the invasion. He is also the reason you both found Tsunade when you did. Kabuto has been acting as a spy in Orochimaru's organization for years. He has also been giving him slightly wrong information, not enough to make Orochimaru suspicious, but enough to save lives. In fact, he made sure we realized that Sasuke and Sakura were mentally unstable after the Chunin exams. If you're worried that he might attack you, then do not worry, as young Sai will be staying with them to keep an eye on them. Sai gave Naruto a fake smile as he said, "It is a pleasure to meet you, Uzumaki-san." Jiraiya spoke up. "Naruto, I understand why you're reluctant to allow them to stay. But I promise you that Kabuto is a loyal shinobi." Naruto frowned as he said, "Does this mean Kabuto held back during our fight?" Danzo couldn't help but chuckle before he shook his head. "No, you actually did manage to defeat him. Although he has admitted it was because he underestimated you." Naruto sighed as he said, "Okay, they can stay in one of the houses in the compound. When can I expect them?" Jiraiya spoke up. "1 week from today. Sai will help you get everything done." Present day, Naruto leaned back in his chair as he stared at the ceiling. After the group had moved in, Naruto and Kabuto had managed to bury the hatchet. Afterwards, he introduced Naruto to Hyuga. That was an interesting meeting. Flashback, 3 months, Kabuto stood in front of Naruto with an orange-haired man who was shifting around nervously. It was almost as if he was nervous. "Naruto-kun, this is Hyuga-kun. I was hoping you could help him out with the problem he has." Naruto looked at Hyuga as he asked, "It's nice to meet you, Hyuga. What is the problem?" Kabuto looked at Hyuga before he said, "Hyuga's bloodline makes him go berserk. Orochimaru believed it had something to do with nature chakra. I was wondering if you might know a way to deal with it." The Uzumaki clan were the foremost experts in chakra. This was true, no clan knew more about chakra than the Uzumaki clan. It was a side effect of their Fuinjutsu studies. It was Shingetsu who answered. "Well, there are 2 ways to deal with it. The first involves getting a contract with a summoning clan and learning Sage Mode, while the second is a seal developed by the Uzumaki clan to counteract Sage Mode. Naruto's the only one who could apply it currently. It requires a highly advanced seal master of the Uzumaki clan to place it." Hyuga spoke up, his voice hopeful. "What does the seal do?" "It blocks off the user's connection to nature. This makes it impossible to pull in nature chakra. It's usually applied as a tag. Naruto could probably make you a bracelet that would work the same way." Kabuto spoke up. "Would you mind doing it, Naruto-kun?" Naruto nodded. "I can do that. It will take a couple weeks through, so we need to make sure he doesn't go berserk before then. If he is in the Uzumaki clan and goes berserk, it's very likely he will be killed by the security seal's database." Hyuga spoke up. "Someone strong enough can force me to calm down. Similar to what Kimimaro would do. He's strong enough that being near him keeps me from going berserk. Is there anyone currently strong enough in the compound?" "You're strong enough, Naruto-san." Naruto nodded. "Then I guess I'll need to stay around you while working on it." Present time, a month later, Kimimaro had been able to leave the hospital. Tsunade had been able to heal him, and she pronounced him completely healthy. Naruto had gotten to meet Kimimaro. In some ways he reminded the Jinchuriki of his friend Gaara. They were both quiet and gave off a feeling of loneliness. The 2 of them got along pretty well. Suddenly the sound of the alert seal sounded. Someone was at the gate waiting for him. He stood up and began to head out of the room. As he did, he waved for Kabuto and Karen to go back to their lesson. He walked out of the main house and soon reached the gate to see Umbu-kat standing at the gate patiently. When she saw him, she spoke up. "Hokage-sama sent me to tell you that you are to report to the Hokage office as soon as possible." Naruto nodded as he opened the gate and left. Moment it was closed, the seals activated once again, locking it. "I'll head there. Is there anything else I need to be informed of?" Kat shook her head before disappearing with a body flicker. Naruto made a hand sign and disappeared in a whirl of flames and wind. He reappeared at the Hokage tower and smiled. He had always thought the leaf body flicker was a little too boring. He liked his version. He walked past the secretary, who nodded at him. When he reached the door, he opened it up and walked in like he usually does. Inside was Jiraiya sitting behind the desk, while in front of him were 3 people. One was Hinata, another was Kakashi, and the final was Itachi Uchiha. The true last loyal Uchiha looked much better than he used to. When he had arrived at Konoha, he had been coughing up blood and barely able to see. He had been living on borrowed time. Tsunade had luckily been able to cure his illness, and they had transplanted his mother's eyes to replace his nearly blind ones. Mikoto Uchiha was one of the few members of the clan with the Manjikyu Sharingan. Now Itachi had the Eternal Sharingan. Naruto still remembered the day the truth behind the Uchiha massacre had been announced. Flashback: a month ago, Jiraiya had an announcement to make today. So most of the village was in the village square awaiting the announcement. After a few minutes, Jiraiya arrived on top of the Hokage Tower and began to speak. 7 years ago, the Uchiha clan were almost completely wiped out. The one who did this was Itachi Uchiha, who went insane. This is what everyone was told. The villagers began to mumble among themselves before Jiraiya continued speaking. In actuality, the Uchiha clan were killed under orders from the higher-ups of Konoha. The crowd erupted into noise, but before they could get too loud, Jiraiya regained their attention with a chakra-enhanced clap. The reason for this was that the Uchiha clan were planning to commit a coup and take over Konoha. Itachi Uchiha and Shisui Uchiha, who were loyal to Konoha, were assigned to try and stop the coup. But something happened. Shisui was killed by an unknown assailant and his eyes were destroyed in the battle. Thus Itachi was forced to take drastic measures. He killed all the members of the clan that were planning a coup. But someone else attacked the innocent Uchiha that day, slaughtering them all. Itachi was forced to be labeled a missing nin. His only request was for his brother to be spared from his crimes. Sasuke's defection forced us to take drastic measures. We recalled Itachi, who was ill and dying. He has been in the village for the past month being healed. May I present to you all, Konoha's newest Jonin and one of our most loyal shinobi. The last loyal Uchiha, Itachi Uchiha. Itachi walked into view. His face was blank as usual, although Naruto had a feeling he was cursing Jiraiya out in his mind. The crowd stared at him for a few seconds before the cheering began to sound. Before long, the whole crowd was cheering. Present time, Naruto walked into the office and stood next to Hinata. Jiraiya smiled seeing this as he said, "I'm glad to see you all responded quickly to my summons. As you all know, the Akatsuki will be moving soon. Thus I have decided we need a counter team. A team set up specifically to counter the Akatsuki. You 4 will be the counter team. Kakashi will be in charge. While the threat of the Akatsuki is still around, you all will be working as a team on all your missions. Are there any questions?" Naruto raised his hand. "Not that I'm complaining. I would love to fight those guys who are hunting me and my fellow Jinchuruki. But why were we all chosen? Each of you was chosen for a specific purpose. Itachi was chosen since he knows each of the Akatsuki. Kakashi has experience leading a team, as well as the fact he is an extremely skilled and versatile Jonin as well as being a skilled tracker. Hinata is the team's medic as well as your scout. While you Naruto are the hard hitter, not to mention my advisors and I all agree, it's safest if you're on the front lines with backup instead of being kept locked in the village." Kakashi spoke up with a nice smile. "Not to mention your Fuinjutsu skills will come in handy out there." He turns back to Jiraiya as he says, "So the team will be composed of the Itachi of the Sharingan, Copy Ninja Kakashi, the Moonlit Medic Hinata, and the Celestial Swordsman Naruto. Sounds like a pretty good team to me." Both Hinata and Naruto blushed at their epithet. They had been posted by Otogekure a couple months ago. They had A-ranked bounties and many suspected that Sasuke was behind it. The reason for this was because Naruto's bounty was awarded only if he was brought in alive. Jiraiya chuckled as he said, "Yes, quite the team. Now are there any other questions?" They all shook their heads. "Good, you all will be taking A-rank missions as a team for now until the Akatsuki threat is taken care of. Be ready, because when the Akatsuki make their move, you 4 will be on the front line. Team Kakashi, you are dismissed." Near Suna, at the same time, 2 people wearing black cloaks with red clouds were walking towards the entrance of Suna. In front of them was a blood-stained man who knelt when he saw them. "Sasori-sama, I have done as you requested." The shorter one spoke in a guttural voice. "Good job, Yura." The taller one wiped his straw hat, revealing his blonde hair that was done up in a ponytail along with one eye being covered by a strange scope. "Now Sasori, my man, watch as I use my art to capture our target." With a wave of his hand, a small clay bird flew off his palm and grew much larger when it landed. Deidara climbed on and flew off. The Kazekage Tower, Gaara had changed quite a bit in the past few years. While he was still quiet, he had opened up to those around him. He was still a man of few words, but you could tell he was happy. His fighting style had evolved as well. His 2 battles with Naruto had helped him realize that standing in one place launching attacks at the enemy wasn't completely viable. After the Chuunin Exams, he had not only learned more wind ninjutsu, but he had also trained his body. He had developed a style of combat that allowed him to use his sand as platforms to move around the battlefield. He had also taken up a weapon. It was not a bladed weapon. It was instead something that had inspiration from Hinata's staff. At his side was a small silver handle shaped to look like a miniature version of his gourd with the mouth of the gourd facing down. Seals were carved into the handle, hiding its true form till he entered combat. The weapon's name was Desert's Patience. As Gaara was working on paperwork, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. There was a bird in the sky, one that was not native to the desert. Gaara frowned as he stood up and grabbed his gourd filled with sand and headed out of the office. With Deidara pulled his hand out of his bag with a smirk. In his hand were 3 small clay spiders. He tossed them at 3 roofs where Chunin were stationed on lookout. With a silent plume of smoke they grew much larger and jumped on the Chunin. They exploded, killing the 3 Chunin with ease. Deidara laughed. "Ha, those guys have learned what true art is." He jumped off of the bird and onto the rooftop. Infiltration complete. That's when he noticed there was someone in front of him. Play Naruto, Gaara's theme. Deidara looked up to see Gaara standing in front of him. He stood there and looked at him calmly. In his hands was a tan cane with a silver gourd-shaped handle that was placed in front of him. The wooden part of the cane came out of the mouth of the gourd. Both his hands were resting on the silver gourd. "I was wondering when you would arrive, Akatsuki. You're Deidara, the mad bomber if I remember right." Deidara narrowed his eyes. "I see, Itachi spilled the beans on us. Now how did you know I was here? That bird isn't native to the desert. Next time do your research." Deidara smirked as his hand slowly snuck into the pouch on his back. "Oh, I won't have to. Because there won't be a next time. You will be coming with me, Jinchuruki." With a wave, Deidara launched multiple clay birds at Gaara. The sand rose up and blocked the attack without Gaara even flinching. "Very well then." With those words, Gaara rushed forward. Once he was in front, Deidara his cane lanced forward and stuck him in the chest. With a burst of smoke, Deidara disappeared, replaced by a clay bird which exploded. Gaara was protected from the explosion by his sand. He looked up calmly to see Deidara in the air on his clay bird. Gaara jumped up and was caught by a large cloud of sand from the desert and raced towards Deidara. When he reached level with the mad bomber, the sand spread throughout the air until Gaara was standing on a small he did. The cork in his gourd turned into sand and rushed out in a cloud around him. Deidara frowned as he looked at Gaara in front of him and the grains of sand floating in the air. "I guess you have a geographical advantage." Gaara slipped into a fighting stance. It looked similar to that of what a rapier user would take. A shinobi takes every advantage they can. Deidara grinned. "That is true." On the ground, Baki looked up anxiously. While Gaara had become much stronger over the past 3 years, he still worried for his student. Konoha at the same time, Naruto finished his 15th bowl of ramen. Sitting at the counter with him was Hinata, Itachi, and Kakashi. The group had decided to get lunch together. Hinata was not far behind Naruto in terms of bowl, having put away 13 bowls already. Kakashi had eaten 8 bowls, while Itachi was only on 3, but he seemed to be busy speaking to Im. The two of them had been childhood friends before Itachi was forced to take on the mission to kill the members of his clan plotting to overthrow the government. The flaps on the stand were pushed out of the way as Shikamaru and Temari walked in. Temari was the ambassador between Suna and Konoha. Naruto looked up and said, "Hey Shikamaru, Temari. What are you two on a date?" Temari sputtered as she said, "Why in the world would I go on a date with lazy bones? Not to mention having a date here. What girl would enjoy that?" Hinata slowly raised her hands, making Temari look at her in confusion. "It's a nice place. It's a good place for an informal date." Shikamaru spoke up. "We're working on the Chunin Exams. They are going to be held in Konoha this time. Also Naruto, by the way, Jiraiya wanted me to tell you, you're the proctor for the second exam. Enko is on a mission and won't be back in time. So you're in charge of the Forest of Death section this year." Naruto grinned as he said, "You mean I get to torment Genin trying to become Chunin?" Shikamaru looked at him. "Don't you mean test Genin?" "I know what I said. Troublesome." Suna, Gaara flipped out of the way of a couple clay birds. Where he landed, a sand platform formed under his feet. The birds didn't get the chance to turn as they ran into a wall of sand. Gaara tossed his cane into the air before flying through several hand signs. Wind style, air bullet. Gaara released a barrage of 8 air bullets at Deidara, which the mad bomber managed to dodge. He caught his cane as it fell before rushing forward. As he did, the sand in the air formed a platform, at the same time slowing down Deidara's bird. Gaara's cane lanced forward and destroyed the head of the bird before he spun around and struck Deidara in the head, knocking him flying, only for a puff of smoke to reveal he had changed places with another piece of clay, this one in the shape of a spider that exploded. Gaara didn't even flinch when a wall of sand rose to protect his back. When it fell, he turned to see Deidara on another bird. "I see, you've planted clay figures on the rooftops, haven't you?" Deidara gave Gaara a smirk as he spoke with sarcasm practically dripping from his words. "I see you're not Kazekage for your good looks, He launched several clay bird figures at him again. Only these moved at much higher speeds than before. Gaara flipped out of the way and they crashed into a sphere of sand that had taken his place, exploding as they did. From under the bird erupted a massive claw of sand that Deidara was forced to dodge. As he flew, the sand claw began to multiple. Soon there were 4 of them closing in on him from all sides. Deidara was just barely able to escape the enclosing prison of sand. But as he left, he found Gaara in front of him. His bird was destroyed again, and Gaara began to unleash a barrage of jabs on him with his cane, each jab hitting hard, bruising skin and cracking bones. It was all Deidara could do to change with one of the last clay figures he had set up, which exploded right after he did. Deidara hissed in pain, his ribs were cracked. That brat hit hard. He made another much faster bird to ride on and got on. But he didn't notice the sand that was next to him, that latched onto his arm. Oh no, him! With a burst of blood and blinding pain, Deidara's arm exploded and was torn away. As it was, he let out a scream. The sand began to regather itself to attack again. But the bird managed to get Deidara away. As he flew, he managed to ignore the pain and into his bag. "I'm low on clay. I have enough for maybe 4 more attacks." He fights completely differently than what reports had said. The reports said he would stay in one place and attack and block with his sand. But he has been mobile, using not only his sand, but wind and that cane. This isn't just a couple months of training. This guy has been training in this fighting style for a couple years now at least. The sand he used to attack me as well as block some of my attacks is different from the sand that's gathered in the air forming his platforms. It's much faster and denser. Most likely it's what is stored in that gourd of his. It's obviously limited, that means I can make use of its limited amount to attack. That bit that destroyed my arm is infused with explosive saliva. All I need to do is force him to defend himself with all his special sand. I can use what's left of my clay to do it, but I need a distraction. Luckily I have my C3 bomb with me. If I drop beneath the sand layer he's standing on, I can drop this on the village and force him to defend it while forcing him to defend himself at the same time." He pulled out an already made statue that looked almost humanoid. Gaara watched as the Akatsuki member kept flying underneath the sand layer. His eyes widened when he saw the new bomb appear next to Deidara. Deidara smirked at Gaara as he said, "I'm tired of your expressionless face. Sorry to tell you, but you lose him." With those words, the bomb did a little hop and fell off the bird, falling towards the village. Gaara held out his hand and most of the sand layer fell and reappeared, mixing with a massive amount of sand from the village floor, making a shield to protect the village. The bomb connected with the sand and exploded, but the sand held. Gaara had been so focused on protecting the village that he didn't notice the large amount of homing birds coming at him. When he noticed, he was forced to completely entrap himself in a sand sphere to hold up against the explosions. Gaara's eyes went wide when he saw extremely small clay spiders crawling out of his sand, and before he could do anything they exploded. His sphere erupted and he started to fall towards the ground, barely conscious. His cane falling away from him, having shrunk back into its carrying form. He was barely aware enough to make the sand shield protecting the village flow into the desert. He was not aware, though, that some of his sand was pulling his cane towards him and slipped it into his pocket. Unseen by everyone, a see-through woman with brown hair had appeared behind Gaara, guiding the sand to bring him his weapon, before fading away. Before he could hit the ground, he was caught by the tail of the clade bird. Deidara grinned as he said, "Humph, a typical Kazekage, using the last of your strength to make sure the sand won't fall on the village." With those words, Deidara flew off. Kankuro took off following the flying bird. "Baki, get in contact with Konoha. We need their help." "Wait, Kansas. Damn it." He rushed towards the Kazekage Tower. He needed access to one of the messenger hawks. He needed to call for aid. Gaara's life was held in the balance. As he ran, he was soon joined by Umbulinks. "Send a pursuit team after Kankuro immediately." 10 minutes later, with Kankuro raced across the desert. He could see the bird landing. He was getting close. He had to save his brother. When he got close, he shouted out, "Wait!" The Akatsuki members turned to see Kankuro standing there. "Return Gaara to me." Sasori spoke up. "Go on ahead, Deidara. I'll take care of this." Kankuro frowned as he pulled out the scrolls containing his puppets. He wouldn't let them take Gaara. Konoha, 4 hours later, a hawk with a small pack on its back flew towards a building with multiple cages on top. Sitting on a bench was a young man wearing black clothes and a cast on one arm. When he saw the hawk, he gasped and rushed towards the hawk. That's Suna's fastest messenger hawk, Takamaru. He pulled out the scroll and yelled, "Code team, hurry and come here." A woman with black hair ran up and he spoke to her. "If Suna sent Takamaru, something is going on." She examined the scroll and nodded. "Understood, I'll decode this quickly." At the same time, at Training Ground 52, Naruto had his sword drawn and was standing across from Itachi, who had a tanto out. The team had decided to train together a little. Hinata and Kakashi had faced each other, and now Naruto and Itachi were facing each other. It was a taijutsu and kenjutsu only spar, no ninjutsu. They really couldn't use it in this training ground. The two stood facing each other, waiting for the other to make the first move. Itachi's Sharingan was spinning, while Naruto was wearing his goggles to block out any genjutsu that Itachi's eyes could cast. After a few more seconds of staring, Naruto seemed to disappear and reappear in front of Itachi, his sword slashing at his neck. Itachi knocked it away with his tanto before throwing a punch at Naruto, forcing him to lean back. Itachi's fist just barely passed by his face. Naruto leaned fully back and performed a handstand, his legs spread wide before spinning on his hand, sending a barrage of spinning kicks at Itachi. Itachi jumped back to dodge the attack, with Naruto flipping off his hand. Once he landed, he rushed forward, kicking at Itachi's chest. Itachi caught the kick with his hand and redirected the force and pushed him past him. Naruto made use of the momentum to spin and come in with a diagonal slash aimed at Itachi's chest. Itachi parried it away calmly and then thrust his tanto at Naruto, who leaned to the side so the tanto passed by him before he jumped back. The two were back in their original positions, facing off against each other. The two were pretty evenly matched so far. Naruto's Haki was anticipating Itachi's strikes, just like Itachi's Sharingan was anticipating his. Naruto was about to charge forward again when an Umbu member with a tiger mask appeared in the training ground. The two stopped and everyone turned to the Umbu tiger, who spoke up. "The Hokage has ordered your team's presence. It is urgent." Naruto sheathed Shingetsu, which quickly transformed into a bracelet, while Itachi put his tanto into its sheath on his back. Kakashi spoke up. "We'll be right there, Tiger." The Umbu nodded and vanished. The group all nodded before vanishing as well in their various body flickers. Hokage office. 3 minutes later, Team Kakashi were currently in the Hokage office, awaiting their orders. Jiraiya sighed as he said, "We received a message from Suna less than 10 minutes ago. The Kazekage has been captured by Akatsuki. It's your mission to save him." The team all saluted before they turned to Kakashi. "Pack for 2 weeks, meet at the western gate in an hour. Be ready because we will be moving quickly." With those words they vanished in body flickers. West Gate. An hour later the team were at the gates. In front of the three was Kakashi, who was speaking. "First we will head to Suna to get information on what exactly happened. Then we will try to pick up the trail. We will be moving quickly and we should be there within 2 days. Are there any questions?" When no one spoke he nodded and said, "Then let's go." The team headed down the road before jumping into the trees and began to quickly tree hop west towards Suna. As they did, Naruto frowned and thought to himself, "Hold on, Gaara, we're coming." Road to Suna. An hour later, it was Hinata who saw Temari on the road. When she notified Kakashi, he had given the order for them to stop and inform her. She needed to know about her brother. Not to mention with her in the group they wouldn't be slowed down by guards when they reached Suna. Hokage office. At the same time, Jiraiya, who had finished his paperwork with the help of his shadow clones, was currently taking the time to indulge his hobby, writing. He was writing the next installment in his adventure novel series. They were easily as popular as his Ika Ika series were. While he would admit that writing the Ika Ika series had been more fun, he was content working on the adventure stories since at least he was finally married to the woman he loved. He reached out to grab his cup of sake when it cracked. He frowned as he looked at it. "I'm not usually superstitious, but that is ominous." Suna. 2 days later, Baki frowned as he looked at Kankuro, who was unconscious. The team that had found him 2 days ago collapsed in the dunes. Scattered around him was his broken puppets. They looked like they had been systematically dismantled. Baki was pulled from his thoughts by the sound of Kankuro stirring. "Kankuro, can you hear me?" "Baki-sensei." It was him. He was there, Sasori of the Red Sands. Kankuro began to mutter slightly before passing out once again. Baki frowned. Learning who had defeated Kankuro made one thing clear. They needed help if Kankuro was to survive. He turned and walked away. In another part of Suna, there was a small watering hole. Around this watering hole were a couple elderly people. Their names were Chio and Ebizo, the elders of Sunagakure. Elder Chio was once a famed puppeteer who was known as Chio of the White Treasure. She had once destroyed an entire fortress on her own with her 10 white puppets. While her brother Ebizo was a skilled wind specialist. He was known as Ebizo of the Bladed Tornado. He was said to be able to create tornadoes and extremely sharp wind blades in the blink of an eye. But now they were just a pair of elders who were fishing at the watering hole. Ebizo looked at his sister, who was sitting completely still. "Sister, hey, I'm talking to you." The old woman didn't move a muscle. "Are you dead?" Chio stayed still for a few more seconds before she laughed, and said, "Nope, I was just playing possum." "Don't be so silly, sister." It was at that moment that Baki arrived. "Honored elders, I beg you to assist us." Chio didn't take her eyes away from her fishing rod. Old books left bound together on a high shelf. "There is nothing we can do to help you. An organization known as the Akatsuki attacked the village a couple days ago and kidnapped the Kazekage. His brother, Kankuro, chased after the enemy and was defeated. One of the members was your grandson, Elder Chio." An hour later, at entrance to Suna, the Konoha shinobi and Temari entered into Suna. One of the guards was walking next to them as he said, "Temari, please follow me." As they walked, he explained everything. After the Kazekage was abducted, Kankuro chased after the man who abducted the Kazekage. But we found him shortly afterwards, wounded and poisoned. What, they got Kankuro as well? Yes, and the poison they used is extremely potent. We can't neutralize it. He has at best half a day left. Hinata spoke up. Lead me to the infirmary, I'll examine and treat him. And same time, the Suna infirmary, Chio sighed as she examined Kankuro. Poison is my specialty. But this, even I don't recognize this poison. Sasori has grown so much. Baki looked at her. What should we do? Well, the only one more knowledgeable about neutralizing poisons than I is the slug Sannin of Konoha. During the Great War, she would always be the one to figure out my poisons and create antidotes to neutralize them. All you can do is call her here and ask her to examine him. You're allied with Konoha, correct? Yes, how long do you think Tsunade-sama would have to get here before Kankuro died? Before Chio could answer there was a clattering sound outside the infirmary before the door was thrown open. Temari and Hinata ran in, with the rest of Team Kakashi right behind them. Chio gasped when she saw Kakashi, the white fang of Konoha. Before Baki could react, Chio launched herself at Kakashi trying to punch him. But her punch was blocked by the blonde wearing a cavalier hat with an orange plume. With a spin he kicked her back before he said, "Why the hell are you attacking Kakashi-sensei like that, you old hag?" She pointed at Kakashi. "You, the white fang, you killed my son. I will avenge him." Kakashi raised his hands. "Wait, I'm not the white fang. There's no use in arguing, white fang. I get my vengeance today." Ebizo, who had snuck up behind her, grabbed her shoulder. "Sister, look closely. He might look like the white fang, but he's not. He might be his son." Chio took a good look before giggling. "Teehee, I was just pretending to attack him. I knew he wasn't the white fang." Hinata spoke up, her Byakugan active as her one of hands glowed. "I'm going to treat Kankuro now. I need a bowl of water." When the medic handed her a bowl of water, she made a small incision on his side. Using her glowing hand, she slowly removed the black liquid and guided it into the bowl of water. After that, she set the bowl on the table and closed the wound. "There we go. I've removed most of the poison, so he is no longer in immediate danger. But I need to make the antidote to neutralize the rest of the poison. Please gather these ingredients." She quickly listed off the things she needed to the medic, who rushed out. Chio spoke up. "The way you did that. It was just like that slug woman. That a girl like him would come to aid them." Hinata smiled. "I was trained by Tsunade-sama." Naruto spoke up. "After Hinata has finished curing Kankuro, we'll go after the Akatsuki and save Gaara." Konoha, Hokage office 2 days earlier, Jiraiya sat at his desk looking at the 4 in front of him. The second anti-Akatsuki team that had been formed. "I called you all here because I have a mission for you. You are all to go to the sand and support Kakashi's team on his mission to save the Kazekage." The 4 before him was his second anti-Akatsuki team. The leader for the team was Kabuto Yakushi, the team's medic and support. Standing next to him was Sai, the team's scout and trap and fuinjutsu expert. Next to Sai was Guren, one of the team's 2 heavy hitters as well as mid-range fighter. While the final member was Kimimaro Kagaya, the close combat fighter and the second heavy hitter of the team. Kabuto sighed as he pushed up his glasses. "Understood, Jiraiya-sama. We should be able to reach there in 2 days. Omake, Naruto proctors the Chunin Exams. Be noted, the countdown dialogue in this comes from Guyver Naruto. By the Beardedone, Ibiki watched another group of genin leave the room, knocking the number down to around 15 teams. After a couple minutes no one left, so he said, "Is no one else going to leave?" When no one answered, he said, "Then, for all those who are still in this room, you all pass." A young genin from Kumo spoke up. "But what happened to the 10th question?" Ibiki gave a smirk as he said, "But I did ask a 10th question. When I asked if you would listen to the 10th question, that was in fact the 10th question. The other 9 questions were meant to test your information-gathering skills, while the 10th question was meant to test how you would act if you were offered a classified mission. Now the proctor of the second stage should be here soon. Suddenly a puff of smoke began to fill the front of the class behind Ibiki. As it did, the sound of kabuki music began to play. When it did, the smoke cleared to show Naruto standing behind Ibiki before he began to dance. From sea to sea, you will not find a more epic prankster around. I am a one-man army with stamina to match. He slams his hand onto the ground, and in another puff of smoke a large snake-like green and brown dragon appeared with Naruto standing on his head posing. I am the celestial swordsman Naruto Uzumaki. Konohamaru, who was part of the genin who stayed, spoke up. Boss, that was so cool. Naruto jumped off the dragon as he said. Thanks for the help, Tristan. The dragon grinned as it said. It was no problem, Naruto. It was kind of fun. With those words he disappeared and Naruto turned to the Chunin hopefuls. Naruto raised his hand as he said, Hey there, I'm the proctor for the second stage. Now I will explain it at training ground 44. You have 30 minutes, so get a move on it. He quickly opened a window before he leapt out of it. The Konohamaru Corps quickly followed him, Hanabi and her unwilling team on their heels. Everyone else just watched the 2 genin teams leap out a 3rd-story window like it was nothing. Ibiki turned to the other Chunin hopefuls as he said, Well, you should get moving. The genin left the room. Once they were gone, Ibiki shook his head. That kid has taken too many lessons from Jiraiya. 30 minutes later, soon all the genin arrived, to see all 4 members of the Konohamaru Corps. Hanabi is the 4th member, talking to the proctor. When everyone had arrived, he shooed his students away and stood in front of everyone. Good job finding your way here. I can see your eager flames are burning bright. Suddenly a pair of voices sounded in the distance. Flames of youth. Naruto chuckled as he said, Not those flames. Now for the second stage, you will all be spending 5 days in this lovely forest. It's called the Forest of Death. Don't worry, I got permission from Anko beforehand, so she won't attack any of you. This was an actual problem that had happened a couple times. Training Ground 44 was basically Anko's territory. It was actually bought by Anko from the 3rd Hokage a few years back. So while others could use it, they needed her permission beforehand. Otherwise they ran the risk of her attacking them. It's why she is usually the proctor for the second stage. Now while you are in there for the 5 days, you will be playing a game of Hunt the Scroll. He held up the 2 scrolls. The 2 scrolls were of course the Heaven and Earth scrolls. From what he understood, this Chunin exam was an altered version of the one that he had decided to sit out. You will get either an Earth scroll or a Heaven scroll. It is then your job to find your scroll's counterpart and make it to the tower in the center with both scrolls and your team fully intact. Now, since there are an odd number of teams, we decided to add in another feature. In the Forest of Death is a Jonin. This Jonin has the 16th scroll. If a team manages to impress this Jonin, then they will get the scroll. You will also be escorted to the center. But be warned, if you don't impress this Jonin, then you will be disqualified. Are there any questions? A random Sand Genin raised her hand. Who is the Jonin? I am not allowed to say. All I can say is, if you meet the Jonin, I hope you manage to impress them. All of the genin looked uncertain before filling out their forms and collecting their scrolls and were shown to their doors. Suddenly over the speaker system came Naruto's voice. So you will all be entering when the horn sounds. To count us down we have our very own Anko Mitarashi. Anko's voice sounded. Attention victims. If you want to live, you can back out now. The gates will open in 4 minutes, so enjoy what little remains of your wretched lives. All the genins beside Naruto's students looked at each other in shock. The 4 students of Naruto's had met Anko a few times. Anko's voice sounded again. 3 minutes until death. I'd advise you to quit, but I really like to think of all the blood you'll spill in there. Naruto was enjoying this. It didn't help that he had close to 100 shadow clones in various henges observing the various teams, and they were dispelled to let him see the reaction. 2 minutes. If you need to go to the loo, you're too late. A proper ninja plans ahead. Naruto leaned forward and said into the microphone. Could the genin who has lost the roll of 1,000 Ryo notes that were tied with a blue ribbon please be aware that we have some good news for you. We have found the ribbon. Konohamaru upon hearing the couldn't help but start to laugh. They should have known that their stealth teacher would ruin the atmosphere. Anko sounded again. 1 minute to go. Last chance to back out. Otherwise, say your prayers. A minute passed before the horn sounded and all the gates opened. All the teams entered into the forest. Naruto turned to Anko before he said, So, how long do you think it will be before a team finds the real you in the forest? Suddenly screams sounded and the shadow clone of Anko smiled. Right now. Naruto shook his head. I pity those poor genin. The two sat there talking as the screams of the damned sounded from the forest.